Research shows that people remember stories. I don't remember what the data point is, but it's like massive of times more than if you just give them data or just straight up facts. So that can be hard to implement for people sometimes because they're like, what does that even mean? What do you mean use storytelling? Well, you can storytell actually around data, for example. So rather than just like plopping in a statistic, tell the story about that data point. Tell the story about the research and the findings, and then connect that to the message that you're sharing in that chapter in your own personal experience or experience with clients. There's always a way to wrap things in story and to really use that to teach because people learn through storytelling. Some of the most loved nonfiction books are actually fables. Those tend to be well loved and well shared. So that's one piece. Actually, you can borrow a lot from fiction to write a great nonfiction book. Another piece is to really pay attention to the narrative arc of your nonfiction book. And in fiction, we think about rising action, climax, falling action, denouement, like we think about this whole arc. In nonfiction, we're actually often looking at information load and emotional journey for the reader, even in a very how-to-y how-to book. So I often have my clients graph out kind of how they're loading information for the reader to make sure that we have sequencing, right, for that journey in the book. And that's actually pretty easy to do. It's a little subjective, but if you have a graph, you can kind of graph it out and see, okay, well, I'm kind of like stepping in, and then all of a sudden, chapter 3, I'm like throwing everything at them. Okay, well, maybe chapter 3 needs to get broken into a couple chapters, or maybe it needs to be moved. So that's some of how we think about that. And then another thing that I often find new authors and even experienced authors do is they try to make things way too complicated with the structure of their book. So this is both the overall structure and how they write the book, so at a macro level, but even at a micro level, they'll throw in pull quotes, call out boxes, interviews, tips, summaries, and you'll find often that more novice authors will cram stuff in. And I am 100% guilty of this. If you go look at my first book, which came out in 2013, it had all of those. Every single thing I just mentioned was in my book. Now going back, I realize that a lot of that actually had to do with not being confident in my own ability. It was actually mindset related because if I had relied on a simpler structure for my book, I would have had to bring more of myself into the writing to be able to write that book. Instead, I brought in a lot of tools and tactics and other people's voices and other people's examples because I felt like that was going to make this book great. It wasn't actually me that would make the book great.